Welcome to the Literature Lounge, where writers and authors share their stories behind their stories. Hi, in today's episode, we have with us Srikumar Rao, the author of Modern Wisdom, Ancient Roots. It's such an interesting book title. So, Srikumar, it would be fantastic to know a little bit about your background and what inspired you to become a spiritual coach. There is a very large number of spiritual coaches everywhere. What is it that has led you to this whole spiritual journey? And then you became an author in this field. Tell us more about it.
Certainly. So, what happened, Mohua, is I came to America as a student. I did my PhD at Columbia Business School, joined the corporate world, was very successful. I got burnt out by corporate politics, so I thought I'd go to universities where there is no politics. I was very naive. I thought I would escape politics, but I'm right in the middle of it. And I stagnated for a while and I was feeling very sorry for myself. All my life, I'd been doing a lot of reading, spiritual biography, mystical autobiography. They take me to a wonderful place. And then I came back to the real world and it sucked. And I remember thinking, if all of this is useful only when you're sitting quietly thinking peaceful thoughts, but not when you came to the hurly-burly, then it's useless. But somehow I knew this wasn't true, that this was very useful, maybe the only thing that's useful. I just hadn't figured out how to make use of it. So one day I got a bright idea, which is, why don't I take the teachings of the world's great masters, strip them of religious, cultural, and other connotations, and adapt them into exercises so that they're acceptable to intelligent people in a post-industrial society. And the thought of doing that made me come alive. So I created that course because I needed it for me. It did well. I moved it to Columbia Business School in 1999. It exploded. Since then, I've taught it at many top business schools. And essentially, it's a work in progress. The reason I created it, the reason I teach it, is because I'm working on myself. And that's the only thing any of us ever do, Mohua. We work on ourselves. So you said spiritual coach. That's a term you used and others too. I don't use that term. I simply say that I like to work with successful individuals, generally entrepreneurs, who want to have an outsized impact on the world. They're driven people. But they also have an explicitly spiritual bent that they would like to bring into every aspect of their life. That is my audience. That's the sandbox in which I play. And I don't think of myself as a spiritual coach so much as I think of myself as, look, here is my journey. Here are some things that I learned and I'm sharing with you. And if you find it useful, let's work together to make it even more helpful for you in the context of your particular situation.
So we know that, today everybody is talking about mental health, and it's very, very interesting to know that, you're very clear about the people you want to really share your journey with, because they have to be ready somewhere to also recognize that there is so much beyond what we see, feel, hear, and taste.
Correct.
And so it is so much about transformation. It's a personal transformation. So can you just elaborate maybe the approach, to reframing stories, and the methods and the models that you use for this personal transformation?
Yes. So I draw from the wisdom traditions, and in every tradition, and I must tell you, Mohua, that I've had multiple members of every major wisdom tradition take my course, and they come back and tell me, I understand my tradition better as a result of having taken your course. So ultimately, it's this, Mohua. We are living a fiction. We believe that we are a particular body mind intellect complex. I'm Mohua. I had a great career in advertising. I now run a podcast. That's a storyline. That's not who you really are. Who you really are is pure awareness. But you don't recognize your pure awareness. You identify with a particular body mind intellect complex. And that is the root cause of all of the suffering in your life. In India, we have a wonderful term for this. We call it the great illusion. This is Maya. We are all stuck in Maya. Some of us have got to the point where we recognize that there is Maya and we are stuck in Maya and we want to get out of Maya. And my coaching has to deal with, yes, we are in Maya, we are stuck in Maya, we want to get out of Maya. But as long as we're stuck in Maya, even as we're trying to get out of it, let us enjoy the journey. And that is the essence of my coaching and what I tell my clients and help them discover. Yes, we want to get out of it, but since you are stuck in it, let's enjoy the journey.
It's about the present, right? The whole
Yeah.
concept of being in the moment, of feeling the present, which so many of us often tend to ignore. And
Yes,
we're all the time running towards that goal, completely ignoring the now of our lives. uh,
exactly.
it's so heartwarming to listen to you. But also, there are many people, I'm sure, individuals, who come from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds, who are facing mental health challenges. So how do you see your books impacting them? Everybody may not have the same mindset of being spiritual. Everybody may not have the, let's just say, that awareness that you spoke about, and
Correct.
they are dealing with issues that they feel is a immediate issue that they would like to address. So, how would you approach?
Let's go this way, Mohua. Maybe not everybody is explicitly interested in spiritual progress, but everybody is interested in improving their experience of life. I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm stressed out. I hear that a lot these days. I'm stressed out. People report there's more stress in their life than there's ever been. And I want to have less stress. And some of the things that I share, and none of it is mine, these are all the teachings of the great masters, do have an immediate impact on them, do have an immediate impact on the stress that they're experiencing. And if that's where they want to be, that's fine. A few of them say, yes, that's fine, but now that I've gotten there, I realize there's a lot more to what you're saying and sharing, and I want to go there as well. And with them, I go deeper. But everybody can benefit at the basic level. If I want to have less stress in my life, I want to experience more joy in my life, I want to become better at what I do. And this helps them also.
So let's just talk a little bit about the book. The book incorporates ancient wisdom into the modern context, which I think is so interesting. So how do you think ancient teachings can be relevant, and helpful in today's really, really fast-paced world where everybody's scrolling all the time? I think our thumb has become completely, shaped in the form of a scroll. So everyone wants quick remedies. Everybody wants everything to happen in a jiffy. Yeah. So how do you think?
Things come in. In the old days, you ordered a package and, it came in a week. Oh boy, wonderful. It came so quickly. These
Absolutely.
days, you order from Amazon, and if it isn't there the next day, you feel put upon. And in many places, Amazon is running a test. I happen to be in one of the areas where it is running the test where you order something before 12 noon and you get it the same day. That's wonderful. But the point is, when this becomes an expectation that everything will happen that way, your brain is on overdrive. And part of the reason you're stuck in the notion that you're a particular body mind intellect complex is because your thoughts are constantly identifying with it. And the faster your mind races, the more entrenched you become in this false notion that I'm this body mind intellect complex. You have to slow your mind down. I want you to go back, Mohua, to the time when you were a kid, and little things would entrance you. A dog chasing its tail. Oh, how much fun. You could look at it for an hour. The sense of time was dilated. You had all the time in the world. Now people are very busy. The problem is not that they're very busy, but they've bought this thought of busyness into their head. Oh my God, I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this on top of that. And stress builds up. It is possible for you to get a great deal done. It is possible to be as busy as you always are, but not have the sense of busyness rolling around in your head. You're always calm, cool, collected, doing what needs to be done, but without the feeling of busyness. To get a sense of this, look at a well designed, well operated hospital operating room with competent surgeons, nurses, and so on. There's an operation going on. Let's say it's open heart surgery, and the surgeon is moving precisely, cutting off blood vessels, sewing them shut, monitoring that. And there's a team of people who are functioning perfectly smoothly. So a great deal is happening without the sense that, this has to be done and that has to be done. Think of that as a model for your life. Yeah, there's a lot of tasks you have to get done. You're going to do each one, and you're going to do each one with complete careful attention to what needs to be done. But the feeling of hurry, the feeling of busyness does not have to be there. That is something that we have learned, that is something we've been conditioned into, and it's highly detrimental to our experience of life.
So, let's just talk a little bit about, attaining success in life by being resilient. And I think, there are so many setbacks that we hear of, and we hear of suicides that have really gone up among so many students today. And, they are unable sometimes to handle setbacks, with resilience, knowing that, tomorrow is going to be another day. And so can you just share a few examples, of the wisdom nuggets from your book that focuses on conquering the fears, and, how does one build on one's resilience while embracing the entire spiritual side of having problems and then overcoming that? Because I personally feel that every struggle that I've had is been a gift from God to me. And
Absolutely.
it has not been easy for me, but it has been the greatest gifts ever. From me falling ill, to, being without a job for very long, to all the setbacks. I mean, the passing away of my father has been such a huge learning about grief, and knowing that it's this moment that we have, and the transience of life. So, it'll be fantastic, I think, for all listeners, Dr. Srikumar Rao, for you to tell us a little bit about this.
In a sense, Mohua, you've just answered your own question with respect to your own life, and that is so true. Resilience is our ability to bounce back from adversity. I advocate extreme resilience. And in extreme resilience, you bounce back so fast that an external observer might not even know you had suffered a setback. Okay? So, there are two exercises in particular that I coach my clients through. And every single one of them has said, Dr. Rao, thank you so much. This has completely transformed my life. And it can. One of them comes from a Native American, from an old Sufi tale, my mistake. And it talks about a man and his son who lived in a beautiful valley, and they were very happy, but they were very poor. And the man got sick and tired of being poor. He decided that he would become a rich man, and he'd do that by breeding and selling horses. He bought a stallion. He didn't have enough money to buy a stallion. He borrowed very heavily from the neighbors to do so. And the very day he got the stallion, it kicked the top bar loose from the paddock where he housed it and ran away. And the neighbors came around and said, you were going to become a rich man, but your stallion has run away, and you still owe us money. You are screwed. And the man shrugged his shoulder and said, good thing, bad thing, who knows? That stallion fell in with a group of wild horses which were close to where the man lived, and he was able to entice them into the paddock that he had repaired, so escape was no longer possible. And he now had the stallion back plus a dozen wild horses. By the standards of that village, that made him a rich man. And the neighbors came around and said, we thought you were destitute, but fortune has smiled upon you. How wonderful. And he said, good thing, bad thing, who knows? The man and his son started to break the horses so they could sell them in the market. And one of the horses threw the man's son and stomped on his leg, and it broke and it healed crooked. And the neighbors came around commiserating. He was such a fine young lad, and I will never be able to find a girl to marry him. How sad. And the man said, good thing, bad thing, who knows? That summer, the king of the country declared war on a neighboring country, and press gangs moved to the villages, rounding up all the able-bodied young men to serve in the army. But this man's son was spared because he had a crooked leg, and the neighbors had tears in their eyes as they said, we don't know if we'll ever see our sons alive again, but you still have your son. How lucky you are. And he shrugged his shoulder and said, good thing, bad thing, who knows? And it goes on like that forever. Mohua, I'd like to invite you to the idea that whenever an event happens in your life, any event, it does not cause sorrow or suffering. Sorrow or suffering happens the very instant you label it, this is bad, this is terrible, I cannot bear it. The moment you stick that label on it, then suffering begins. Let's say you lose your job, you get fired. You've had experience of that. So now you have a lot of spare time, and maybe you never liked your job anyway, so here's the time for you to make a transition. But if you go, oh my God, I lost my job. How do I pay my mortgage? My kid's tuition is due. This is terrible. The moment you say this is terrible, at that instant, suffering begins. So what's the alternative? Well, go back in your life. As you've just said, everything that happened you can now see was a gift. So many things happened to you in the past that at the time it happened, you thought this is terrible, but now you can look back and say, hey, it wasn't so terrible after all, or maybe even it was good. Then suffering never begins because you don't label it as suffering. You simply label it as this happened. So if in your own life something happened that in the past, at the time it happened, you would have said this is terrible, but now you can look back and say it's a gift. Is it possible, just barely possible, that what you're today about to label as terrible could in X years turn out to be wonderful? Is it possible? If you just ask yourself that question, you move to a different emotional domain. And if you then ask yourself the next question, what can I proactively do to actually make this good? And you move seamlessly from the realm of possibility, from the realm of despair to the realm of possibility. That's how you learn to be resilient. And this is something that benefits anybody. Something happened, you're bemoaning, this is terrible. Just ask yourself, could it be possible in any way? Can I visualize a scenario in which this could turn out to be a good thing? Asking that question is the key. And if you ask it sincerely and then follow up with what can I proactively do to make it good, then all of a sudden you live in a different world. You move from the realm of despair to the realm of possibility. That's one. The other story is similar, but it also has a profound truth embedded in it, and it comes with one of the greatest scientists the world has ever known, Albert Einstein, who said the most important question you will ever ask yourself is the universe friendly? And there are a few people who believe the universe is unfriendly and the sole purpose of the universe is to frustrate you. They're few in numbers. The vast, overwhelming majority of us believe the universe is neither friendly nor unfriendly. It's indifferent. It doesn't know we exist and could care less. Here I am going around doing my thing, and there's the universe going around doing its thing. And sometimes it seems to be working with me, sometimes it seems to be working against me, but essentially it's a random process. What if the universe was aware of you? What if the universe was well disposed towards you? What if the universe was your friend? Well, friends don't shaft friends, right? If the universe is my friend, why does it give me stuff I don't want? I want to travel on vacation, have a nice time, and the universe gives me pandemics and lockdowns. Well, what if the universe gave you not what you wanted, but exactly what you needed for your learning and growth? It's like you're a small child. You want a tub of ice cream. But the universe, through your parents, gives you fruits and vegetables. And you don't want fruits and vegetables. You want a tub of ice cream. But the universe gives you fruits and vegetables. It isn't until you reach a different level of maturity and wisdom that you can say, thank God I got fruits and vegetables. What if the universe was like that? It never gives you what, or rather, let me modify that. Sometimes it doesn't give you what you want, but it always gives you what you need for your learning. It's a superior mental model. That's what Einstein was saying. The most important question you will ever ask yourself is the universe friendly? So if you decide to live in a friendly universe, you'll find your experience of life to be ever so much better.
You got me so emotional when you said this because, I often try and look back at the passing of my father, which is just about 2 years now. And I realized that, whatever happened, happened for his betterment because he was so unwell. And it was very difficult, but there was a very selfish part of me that wanted him to stay on.
Yeah,
And yeah, so Dr. Rao, this is so, so close to my heart, what you're talking about. And so, you've had a, would
big
you like?
Momo. I wanted to add something else. Understand that when you grieve for a loved one, you're never grieving for the loved one. You're always grieving for yourself. And what you said is profound because for selfish reasons, you wanted your father to be with you, but his journey was done. Release him to move on without grappling. We all come into this human incarnation because there is something we have to accomplish, and when we finish that, we leave. And sometimes we could be very young, maybe even an infant. Sometimes we live to a ripe old age. But when the purpose is accomplished, you leave. If you have that as an understanding and that is your model for life, you will not grieve. You will celebrate the time you had together and you will wish them well in the onward journey.
Yes, yes. You've also laid a lot of emphasis, on personal responsibility for happiness, which seems to align with certain ideologies that prioritizes individual success over collective well-being. So, how do you reconcile this perspective, with the need for a systemic change, to address societal issues, which is really alarming large in today's world? And we're constantly bombarded with so many issues that we constantly hear of. And so, I'd really like your perspective on this.
The two are not contradictory, Mohua. People think they are contradictory because they don't examine it deeply enough. Let's assume you're a deeply tormented soul and you say, I'm going to go out and do good in the world. Okay? A deeply tormented soul is going to take that torment and transmit it to many, many, many others. Which is why you will find that in a lot for not for profit organizations, which are supposedly doing good work, internally in the organization, the politics is vicious and the culture is toxic. Your biggest responsibility is to work on yourself, all right? And everything you do in life is in some way, shape, fashion, or form working on yourself. What I advise all my clients on, what I advise all my clients about is the only thing you ever do in life is you work on yourself. The universe, a benevolent universe, gives you many tools: your family, your job, your children, the country you're born in, the social circumstances. They're all tools that are given to you to work on yourself. Use those tools skillfully, but recognize that in using those tools skillfully, you're really working on yourself. So we have iniquity in the world. We have all kinds of injustices. And to the extent that you're bothered by any of them, it is incumbent upon you to work to try to change that. But as you're doing it, don't let your ego get in the way. Look, I am doing great things. Look at me. I'm going out and fighting. And there are all these other people who are really not doing anything. They're just wallowing in their own personal situation and ignoring that. No, you have been given the call. You're working to alleviate suffering, but recognize that you're not really doing anything. The universe is acting through you. You're not doing anything. It is being done through you. Be grateful that the universe is using you as an instrument, but never for a moment imagine that you're doing it. And when you do that, you will be more effective and you will find that you start inside you the process of spiritual growth. Dedicate everything. For people of faith, I say dedicate it to Allah or Krishna or Jesus or Buddha. And for those who are agnostic, dedicate it to the universe. The universe is acting through you. It all works. It's all the same process. But don't let your ego get in the way and say, I am doing it, and have moral superiority to people who are not doing it. Just do your bit of it and don't compare yourself to others. Just do your bit of it and recognize that what you're really doing is you're working on yourself. So the two are not incompatible.
So let's just go on now to the next question: that how can this book help in one's personal or professional growth?
What happens is the major thing that holds us back, both in our personal life and in our professional life, is the mindset that we have. Very often you have a professional disagreement, you get sidelined, you were in line to be promoted to CEO, but somebody else gets the job, and you say, oh, this is absolutely terrible. I put in so many years of my life into this company, and I didn't get the job. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is, okay, I now have the opportunity to move perhaps to a bigger company, a better job that's more in line with who I am. Or maybe this is what I needed on my journey, in my spiritual journey. You get to define the world that you're living in. And what my book does, it helps people recognize that you have a choice. The important thing for us to realize, Mohua, is that we do not live in a real world. We live in a construct. And we created that construct with our mental chatter and our mental models. We're all living in the matrix. This is not a matrix created by an alien civilization out to enslave us. It is something that we created. And this is actually a hugely liberating concept. Because if we live in the real world and we don't like it, we're screwed. Grin and bear it. But if we live in a construct and we don't like it, there's hope. You can deconstruct the parts of it that you don't like and build it up again and again and again. And this is an ongoing process. And that's what my course teaches. That's what my coaching is all about. You live in a construct. Recognize you live in a construct. If you don't like it, deconstruct the parts of it that you don't like and build it up again. And how you do that, that's my life work.
So let's just talk a little bit more about, what guidance would you offer to those grappling with the quest for deeper meaning? Not that everyone is looking for deeper meaning, as we just discussed initially, but there are people who are looking for deeper meaning and a purpose in life, particularly, in the context of spiritual awakening. So what guidance would you offer them, Dr. Rao? I think it would be so fantastic for our
Well,
listeners to know.
first of all, Mohua, I must explain that I am highly selective about the people who I take on as clients. By the time the persons come to me, they have already done their homework. They have watched my videos on YouTube. They have listened to several of my talks. And they know they want to work with me because they know they're on the spiritual path and it calls to them instinctively on a deep level. I don't tell them anything because my clients are very successful and I can't advise them. They have more domain knowledge, they have more intelligence, they know the context. What I give them is a framework for analysis, and they find this incredibly, incredibly helpful. And the framework for analysis I always use is, how does this help you on your individual journey? And when they apply that framework, all of a sudden, insoluble problems suddenly resolve themselves. They find that there is more peace, more joy in their life, and they accomplish a great deal more than they ever thought they could accomplish. And it happens effortlessly. That's the magic of being on this journey.
So we also know there's a lot of toxic myths around spirituality.
Mhm.
And so, what do you think are the top 5 toxic myths that needs to be debunked while we're talking to each other? If you could just name 5 of them.
5 is a rough order, but let me take that. One of the myths about spirituality is, oh, this is something for people who are old. And when I'm done with that, I'm retired, then I will take it up. That is a myth. Because it is when you get to that stage that you realize, oh my God, there's so much more I could have done in my life with regard to my personal growth and enjoying, and life has passed me by while I was busy doing things. And that is a very deep regret that many people have, myself included. Spirituality is not something that you reserve for some time when everything else is done. And many people also have, those who can't accomplish it, those who can't win in the battlefield of life, they become spiritual. But for me, I am a winner. I'm a conqueror. I can go out and do things. It's all on me. And I don't need to be spiritual. The question to ask yourself is, where are you? Do you feel radiantly alive? Does your blood sing at the thought of being who you are and doing what you do? That is what in India we call Ananda. Ananda has been mistranslated as happiness and in a very trivial sense. That's not what Ananda is. Ananda is a very deep feeling of well being where you know that you're okay. You've always been okay. You always will be okay. In fact, you cannot not be okay. You're in the human condition. As long as you're in the human condition, stuff happens. There will be serious illness and death. There will be relationship problems. There will be career setbacks. There will be financial reverses. All of that is part of being in the human condition. You will deal with each of these situations as appropriate when you have to, but you will deal with it from the space of I am okay and I've always been okay. And that is a very deep sense of well-being that never leaves you. That's what true spirituality is. And all the rest of the myth you have, oh, he's spiritual, that's why he doesn't get anything done. And, that is for losers. Those are all the things that we propagate. And they're toxic. So I would say that's probably one myth.
Can you just highlight one key concept or piece of advice from the book that you believe has the potential to make a very significant impact on the listeners' lives? Because there's so many people listening to us right now. What would you like to tell them?
Absolutely, I can. Mohua, I want you to think of the fact that your awareness is like a flashlight. Okay? In India, I guess we call it a torch. What does a torch do? It illuminates whatever you shine it on, correct? Shine it on the floor, lights up the floor. Shine it on the ceiling, it lights up the ceiling. I'm going to prove it to you right now. Mohua, I want you to take the flashlight of your awareness and shine it on the chair in which you're sitting. The moment you do that, you become aware of the pressure of your buttocks on the seat of the chair. You feel the fabric against the back of your thigh, correct?
Yes.
30 seconds ago, you were not aware of any of this, but now you are. Why? Because you shone the flashlight of your awareness on it, correct?
Yes.
Where do we typically shine the flashlight of our awareness? Typically, we shine the flashlight of our awareness on the 2 or 3 things that are wrong in our lives. More precisely, we shine it on the 2 or 3 things that we have arbitrarily decided is wrong in our lives. And what about the 40, 50, 200 things which are pretty damn good about our lives? We never shine the flashlight of our awareness on it, and therefore it passes by unnoticed. Look, the vast majority of the people who are going to be listening to or watching this podcast, they don't have to bother about whether they're going to have dinner tomorrow. They have a roof over their head. They have a bed to sleep on. Any one of those things would make them incredibly privileged. And when I point that out, they say, yes, we are privileged. But you don't feel privileged. You feel stressed and put upon. Why is that? It's because of where you shine the flashlight of your awareness on. Terrible strategy. Starting immediately, begin at bedtime today. Shine the flashlight of your awareness on the many ways in which you're truly blessed. You're truly fortunate. When you get up in the morning, don't go immediately to the space of, oh my God, there's so much to do and I don't have enough time to do it all. Shine the flashlight of your awareness on the many ways in which you're fortunate, blessed beyond belief. Marinate in it, shower in it, bathe in it, soak yourself in that feeling. As you go through the day, constantly bring this to the forefront of your mind and ponder it. It is my hope that everyone listening to this podcast will live in a default emotional domain of appreciation and gratitude. And the reason for that is simple. When you're in the default emotional domain of appreciation and gratitude, you're not scared, you're not fearful, you're not anxious, you're not worried. The two cannot coexist. Yeah, there is stuff in your life that you'd like to change, but don't approach those issues from the space of, oh my God, this is terrible. Approach it from the space of, I'm deeply grateful for the many ways in which fortune has smiled on me. And from that internal space of gratitude, move to address the issues in your life that you think need to be addressed. And this simple tool will help anybody listening to this.
Dr. Rao, I would also like you to reflect on your own spiritual journey. And, if you can just share a personal experience or revelation that challenged or reshaped your understanding of spirituality, of getting down to really embracing, gratitude in your life, of being aware. Was there any incident or was there any occurrence that had happened in your life that you
I
uh,
wouldn't say so much an
turned?
incident as an evolution. When I was very young, in my teens, I read a book called The Search in Secret India, which is my introduction to Ramana Maharshi, who is an enlightened being and a true sage. And one of the benefits, quote unquote, of Ramana Maharshi is that he's contemporary. And there are even today people alive who had spent time with him. And his life has been extensively documented. And I was very attracted to him, but I didn't understand a word of what he was teaching. Because his fundamental tenet is ask yourself, who am I? Who is asking the question? And that made no sense to me. Who am I? I'm Srikumar. I'm going to do my PhD. I have an MBA from the Indian Institute of Management. I'm Ahmedabad, and I had all of these great jobs. That's who I am. So what do you mean, who am I? And it made no sense at all. But gradually, as I got through life, as I had my head knocked by life, and I started reading more of him, more and more of what he said not only made sense intellectually, but they made a visceral sense. It was, of course, that's the way it is. And now, even now, I can't say that I've absorbed all his teachings, but I have absorbed enough of them to know that what he was holding out is a light not just for myself, but every embodied soul. Some of them recognize it and they are on their independent journey, and some of them don't recognize it, but sooner or later they will when the time is right. But in my case, I have such a deep attraction to Ramana Maharshi, and more I'm finding that his words resonate with me. We spend a lot of our time rearranging the world to suit our tastes and our beliefs, and we do it with the notion that I am doing it. No, you're not doing it. It is being done through you. Be grateful that it's being done through you. It says Krishna tells Arjuna, Arjuna, you're not slaying the Kauravas. They've already been slain by me. You're just losing the arrows. Nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. Be thou my instrument, O Arjuna. And that is what your life should be. Dedicated entirely. Dedicated to Krishna, Allah, Jesus. It doesn't matter. You're being used as an instrument. Be grateful that you're being used as an instrument. Never for a moment imagine that you are doing it. And if you can completely steep yourself in it, you'll find that tension leaves your life. Everything that needs to be done gets done, and it does not leave a residue on you. It's a very simple formula for life. but it's very difficult to implement because we've got decades, perhaps lifetimes of counter programming. That's what we have to overcome.
Dr. Rao, I am so moved listening to you that I'm, just totally brimming with emotions right now because it's beautiful. Can I request you to read a passage from your book that you think, our listeners would like to hear you read it?
Absolutely. Actually, this is a quote from Rabindranath Tagore, who not only was a great poet, he won the Nobel Prize for literature, but in addition to being a great poet, he was also a deeply philosophical and evolved soul. And I'd like to read a quote from him. And it says, "When you cry because the sun has gone away from your life, your tears will prevent you from seeing the stars." Now think about it. We're always bemoaning something that has happened in our life. And the more we bemoan, the more we resist the passage of life. And the next good thing, good quote unquote, is there, but we cannot recognize it because we're obsessed with holding on to the past. Life is a river. It will pass through any obstacle and eventually it will flow into the sea. When the river flows into the ocean, that is not the end of the river. The river becomes the ocean. That's a very useful visual metaphor. You're flowing into your true nature of Brahman. You're flowing into your true nature of awareness. Celebrate that. It's not your end. The river does not end. The river becomes the ocean. That's the journey we're all in. That's what I mean when I say we're trying to transcend the illusion. Enjoy the journey even as you strive.
So, before I end this podcast, I'd like you to tell us how to embrace gratitude, how to practice gratitude every day in our lives for our listeners. If you could just
I'm
say a
very
few.
glad you asked that question, Mohua, because that is a wonderful question. Many, if not most of the people listening to this podcast are type A individuals who live in their heads or their minds. And there is a tendency to think gratitude rather than feel gratitude. You can't go, good health, check, food to eat, check, roof overhead, check. It doesn't work like that. This is not an intellectual exercise. This is an experience. So how do you move from thinking gratitude to feeling gratitude? And the beginning of that is to think about it constantly and tell stories about it. You know, because I have food to eat, a bed to sleep in, and a roof over my head, I am well rested. And because I'm well rested, when a client calls with a problem, I can focus on helping solve that client's problem. And therefore, what that client pays helps me maintain my lifestyle. And all of that is interrelated. So if you look at the many ways in which you're fortunate and see how they tie together into the particular journey of life that you're on, gradually you will find that the thinking gratitude morphs into feeling gratitude. Persist until it happens. Constantly rearrange your life so that your mind dwells on it. Remember the flashlight of awareness? Shine it on this all the time. I advise all of my clients to keep a journal, and in the journal, note down how many times the universe is friendly to you. And there are so many instances of that, Mohua. Like you interview many, many guests on your podcast. And somehow we have this connection. As a result of this connection, I feel it deeply. Perhaps you do too. Hey,
Yes, I
that's the universe working. It's a benevolent universe that's brought us together in this time, in this space, for this instance. There are many, many, many such instances in your life. Make a note of all of them and celebrate each one as a sign of a benevolent universe. And as you do that, you will find gradually, gratitude is always in you. You have to release it. You don't find it. And the more you focus on it, and the more you look at how blessed and fortunate you are, the more you will find that you've such incidents register themselves in your head. And gradually you'll find that gratitude overflows. It bursts out of you. That's when you find what I would like all of the listeners to experience. You're not walking, you're floating joyously through the air, hitting ground every couple of 100 yards or so. And life is such fun. Is there a lot of suffering out there? Yes. To the extent the suffering bothers you, that's a sign the universe is giving that there's something for you to do it. But you do it from the space of gratitude and appreciation. You're doing it because that is your path in life. In the Ramayana, there's this famous story of this great bridge was being built, and there was a squirrel who wanted to help, and the squirrel couldn't carry rocks, but it would go to a beach, rub its head in the sand, and then go to the bridge and rub it off so the sand fell down. And, the monkeys laughed at it, but Rama said, no, he appreciated that. He said the squirrel is doing what it can. Be like that. Do what you can. And your benefit is the changes that happen in you, the learning and growth that happen in you as you try your best. That's a mistake all of us make, Mohua. We think the benefit of setting a goal and trying our level best to reach the goal is reaching the goal. Not so. The benefit of setting a goal and trying your level best to reach the goal is the learning and growth that happen in you and to you as you try your level best to reach the goal. If you actually reach the goal, that's a bonus. Be grateful. If you don't reach the goal, the learning and growth have already happened. Invest in the process. Do not invest in the outcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on today's podcast. And for all our listeners, I'm sure they've taken so much like I have. And thank you once again. We're truly honored to have you on our show.
Thank you, Mohua. It's been my pleasure. I really enjoyed every minute of everything, from the initial conversation we had to this podcast. Thank you.